I was involved in something a long time ago that I still can't quite explain. I worked as a babysitter for this older gentleman. I was a broke college kid, and this guy was offering me a lot of money to just sit on his couch and do nothing all night. I think I got introduced to him through a friend at a bar. Probably should have been a red flag already, I know. He seemed like an okay guy. Told me he ran a business that he owned himself. He never told me specifically what he did, but he talked a lot about managing people and product and stuff. And I mean, his money didn't lie. He told me that he needed someone to look after his kids for a few weeks while he worked late nights. The idea was that the kids would already be tucked into bed by the time his work started, so I was literally only there in case of an emergency. It sounded way too good to be true, especially since he was offering to pay me a couple $100s each night for only a few hours worth of work, if even that. He explained that the money was well worth his peace of mind. He also said that the work was important and also worth a lot more than what he was paying me. I didn't agree initially. I was, a little sketched out. I wanted to do a little more thinking on it, and he told me to think on it too. We met up a couple extra times, and he gave me a tour of his place. He didn't live in a fancy big mansion or anything. It was just a really nice house in a wealthy area of the city. Still lots of neighbors around and stuff, so I was not too worried. He was really hesitant about me meeting his kids for a little while. Just kept insisting it would not be a problem, but I told him it would be best. No point having me watching over the place if his kids couldn't trust me. So after a few more times of insisting, he introduced me to his son, probably around 10 years old, I'd say. He didn't really talk very much. He just seemed to be in his own world most of the time. The man told me that his son had developmental problems, so he wasn't really all that talkative. He told me he was worried that I would be scared off by it, but that it would be no problem, that he was a good kid and rarely made any fuss. He told me his other kids were elsewhere for the day, so I couldn't meet them. His son didn't really respond to me at all. He didn't react to his name and was much too busy humming to himself and playing with some toys. I finally agreed. I was low on cash and really struggling to make rent, so I accepted the job. He gave me the money up front before I'd even started my first shift, and he gave me a time to swing by the next day. It was a few hours earlier than usual. The man, I suppose I will call him David so that this story is easier to read, he wasn't inside the house at the time. He left a note about the kids and food being in the fridge, but he also told me to give him a call when I read the note, so I did. He was really apologetic, actually. He said that he was really sorry to bother me and trouble me for more work, but he asked me for a favor. I asked him what it was. He apologized for being so stupid, but that he had a package he had to collect that he forgot all about. He said that it was all paid for and to just take his ID and credit card that he had left behind for me. That the people in charge would take care of the rest and I could just bring it back. He told me he would pay me extra for grabbing it for him. I mean, shit, anything for some more cash, right? I told him I'd head to the post office immediately. He told me it wasn't at the post office. It was at a company building that he owned and that he would text me the address. He hung up the phone and sent the address over. He told me that I needed to lock every single door and under no circumstances leave anything unlocked. I know I was young, but geez, surely that's common sense. I shouted up to his kids that I was leaving just for a few minutes, but I didn't get a reply. They must have been snoozing away or the kid was probably playing with his toys. When I pulled up to the building, I got a weird vibe. The place looked almost abandoned, if I'm being quite honest. It was this warehouse type thing, but it wasn't exactly swarming with employees. There was black tape all over the window of one of the doors. There wasn't even a security guard anywhere, that I could see anyway. Maybe there was one around the back or on break. There was a chain link fence surrounding the property, but there were holes in it around the bottom in certain places. When I got out of the car and walked over to the door, I got a little worried. I gave a little knock and this guy rushed out of the door. He was pretty tall but looked a little rough. He asked me if I was here to pick up the parcel for the boss. I said for David, yeah. He told me to just wait right there and then disappear back inside for a few minutes. He didn't come back out through the front door. He opened the big doors on the warehouse and wheeled something out. It was this big box that had a handle on top of it. I think it was plastic, maybe. Looked almost like one of those coolers that you would put beer in. I actually laughed a little bit when I saw it, thinking I'd just picked up some drinks for him to relax with. I remember cracking a joke to the guy and he warned me not to open it. I was like, oh, doesn't anyone want to know about his drinking, eh? Wink wink. He warned me again and I was like, don't worry, the secret is safe with me. He didn't hand it straight over though. He told me to open up the trunk and he'd put it inside himself, that it was delicate. I was thinking, geez, these must have been some expensive imported beers, that or wine, or champagne. I've never seen anyone put wine in a cooler though, so probably one of the other two. After that, the guy just didn't say anything to me. He stood outside and watched the whole time I was reversing away, and I waved goodbye. David also told me to leave his ID and credit card with a man, that he was going to be in work again at that building tomorrow, so he would just pick them up from there. So I did as he told me. I pulled away whistling because I was in a good mood. I mean, who wouldn't be when all of their money problems were about to be solved? I texted David before I set off and asked him where to store it, and he told me I could just leave it in the kitchen and he would deal with it when he got home. Rest of the night went without a hitch. I did not hear a single peep from the kids and watched some trash that was on TV. Some reruns of Storage Wars, I think. He asked me for a couple more favors like this every time I looked after his kids. It was always just really mundane things like picking up packages, taking things to one of the buildings his company owned, etc. Picking things up from his employees, giving them rides to a different company building with whatever I was asked to pick up. The only one that even sticks out in my memory is that he asked me to give his daughter and her stepfather a ride back home. It wasn't the daughter I had been looking after along with his son. I think she was 21 or something. She didn't live with him, but asked for a favor. It was a long-ass drive too. Ended up crossing into another state before we got to the address that he gave me. He gave me a boatload of cash, so I was more than happy. It was more than I would make in weeks of working my shitty cashier job. I got invited in for some dinner, and I declined because I thought I would have been needed back pretty soon for the kids, but his daughter insisted, and David okayed it when I checked in with him. I only stayed for an hour or so, maybe pushing 2. The house was decently sized, but seemed almost devoid of furniture. Lots of rooms with barely anything inside of it. The dining room was literally just a table and some basic plates, and the rest was empty. They didn't even have anything up on the walls. No paintings, no family photos, nothing. I figured they had maybe just moved in or something, and I asked this and they confirmed. Something was wrong with the car when I went back outside though. It just wouldn't start, no matter how hard I tried. I was really lucky, because David said that the other car in the drive was his, that I could take that one home, and his daughter would get the other one fixed. I can't even tell you the relief I had. I thought I would be shouted at or fired or something. So, the final job, I worked for David. He actually asked me to stay over and look after his kids the entire night until sunrise. Usually, I arrive and stay for a few hours and then go home pretty late at night, but he wanted me to sleep over this time. He said I was welcome to use the guest bedroom, but that he had an important conference that he could not skip out on. He told me that he would drive home really early morning to be back ASAP, and of course, he offered me a big chunk of cash. So I accepted. He sent me that text pretty early in the day. I pretty much woke up to it. The driveway was empty when I got there, but David was waiting in the house for me. He went over a couple of things with me. He told me to lock every single door and double and triple check it. He told me not to open any windows at all, to not leave for any reason, etc. He was really insistent on this, and again, I thought it was just common sense. He told me not to open the door if anyone knocked, and not to answer any calls on the landline phone. He told me that he'd been getting some crank calls lately, and people fishing for information. That it was just typical harassment stuff when people know you have money and you're in the yellow pages. Do they even have that kind of stuff anymore? How old was this guy? Anyway, with that, he ended up leaving the house, and the night went by pretty quickly. That was until around midnight, I want to say. I was just up, watching whatever trash was on TV. I think they had Family Guy on at this hour, but I don't remember the channel. Or if not Family Guy, a show like that, The Simpsons or something. It was late night reruns. There was a random knock at the door, really light at first, and then some rapping in a pattern. It was loud, like how the cops would knock on the door. I had the curtains closed and the lights mostly off. I didn't want to shout and ask who it was and give myself away as being here. My only thought was that maybe David had come back early, but surely he would let me know if he was gonna do that, especially when he said he was staying overnight. But then I started to hear a key being inserted into the door. Well shit, it must be him. Only he would have the key. Maybe he forgot something. So I went over to the door and started talking the second that he walked in. I was like, I didn't expect you to be back so early. But then I stopped in my tracks. This person was wearing some kind of a mask to cover up their face, and they had some kind of backpack on. I started screaming for them to get out because I didn't know who they were. I tried to shove them outside the door, but this person overpowered me and just shoved me to the ground. He told me to be quiet and stay the fuck on the floor. He told me it didn't concern me and that he would be gone soon if I just stayed quiet. I didn't know if he had a weapon or not in that backpack. I didn't really want to risk anything. He actually took the keys he had and relocked the door before he started rooting around in drawers and pulling things out. He was making a damn mess. And he stuffed some of the things into his bag that he took out of the drawers. It wasn't anything valuable from what I could tell. Just bits and pieces of paper, I think, that I assume were documents. He made a mess, and he seemed distracted, so I lunged for my phone, which had fallen out of my pocket down the side of the couch. He was watching me the whole time out of the corner of his eye. He must have been. Because when I did this, when I lunged for my phone, he immediately came over to me and grabbed my hand and smacked me across the face. He told me, "If you do that again, I will kill you." And he pulled a gun partially out of his jacket and pointed to it with his other hand. He took my phone, and he seemed to use it for a while before tossing it back onto the couch. My stomach dropped. I knew I was in deep shit, and there was a very real possibility I was going to die tonight. I just sat there on the floor, trying not to sob so I didn't look weak. Eventually, this man went down into the basement. Now, the basement was padlocked shut. It had always been whenever I stayed there. I always thought it was because there were valuables in there that perhaps David didn't trust me not to steal. I never questioned it because, hey, I was making money, so why would I even care about his belongings? This man, he had a key to this padlock too. He didn't break it or anything like that. He actually unlocked the padlock. I don't know how, but he just unlocked it and went straight down the stairs. I heard his footsteps growing further away down the concrete, and I used this opportunity to go for my phone again. I was scared for the kids. I thought that maybe they were going to wake up and that this man would hurt them, so I went for the stairs to try and shield them. I heard a commotion coming from the basement, both while I was trying to grab my phone and while I was trying to sneak up the stairs very, very quietly. I thought that if he heard the stairs creak, he might come back outside and kill me for real. The sounds that I heard, it sounded like someone slapping, and I swear I could hear someone saying something really hushed. It sounded like, "Shut up," maybe? That's the one I'm most confident on. The other thing could have been something like, "Time to go," but the only word I heard for sure was "go," and then there was some other mumbling that I couldn't hear at all. It's really, really hard to remember, so I'm sorry. It sounded like something was knocked over too. Something plastic that hit the ground maybe. Once I was all the way up the stairs, I started messaging David. Don't ask me why I didn't call the police first. I know I sound like an idiot. I was way more focused on the kids and worrying about what David would say if they were hurt. I told him that someone had the keys to his house, that they broke in and hurt me. I told him that the kids were safe upstairs with me and that I was going to them right now. I told him that I was going to call the police immediately after checking on the kids. So I walked into the kids' bedrooms, and the beds were made. The beds were completely undisturbed. There was no one in either of the beds. It was just two random single beds. They weren't kid-themed or anything. None of the bedroom was decorated like a kid's would be. The kids just weren't there. I started freaking out, checking the guest bedroom, checking the toilet, checking underneath the bed in case they were hiding down there because they were scared. There was no sign of them at all. There was no sign that any kid had been there. Heck, there weren't even any toys on the floor, or even any toys in the rooms at all. I messaged David while freaking out, saying that his kids were just gone. I told him that they were not in their beds, but that it's not possible that they got out of them and disappeared, because I never saw them go down the stairs, and I would have noticed if they did. I called out for the boy that I met, but I got no response. I started dialing 911 to come and help me, but I got a message back before I could finish. It was from David. It read something like, "You will wait for my colleague to leave, then you will lock the door and go home. If you call the police, you will not be paid. This does not concern you. Just forget it." What the fuck? That's exactly what the man said too. I obviously called the police anyway, and I told them everything. I wasn't going to be responsible for something like this. I told them about the break-in, about the missing kids, etc. Then I ran down to the basement, which again was really stupid of me. But I needed to see what that man was doing, if he'd left. The front door was wide open when I hit the bottom of the stairs, but I went down to the basement anyway. No one was down there at all. The man who broke in was long gone, but I know I did not imagine what I heard. And there were some strange things in the basement that I can't really explain. There was what looked like surgical equipment in the basement. Those scalpel things that doctors use. There were a couple of those I think I remember. One looked quite rusty and old though. I probably should not have been messing with anything down there before the police got there, but I noticed something white on the floor. When I picked it up, I screamed and threw it back onto the floor. It was a tooth, a human tooth. I think it was one of the back ones, the bigger ones. I don't know. I didn't really analyze it before I threw it away in shock. All I know is that I had a little bit of blood on my fingers from the tooth. There was other stuff down there too that I don't really recall. I gave up and went back upstairs, and the cops arrived pretty shortly after. They questioned me for a long time, and I just told them everything that I knew. The rough addresses that I could remember, who I was hired by, his name, what I could remember about the company. I gave them a description of the boy that I met, but I told them that I'd never met the daughter, the younger daughter. The officer who was speaking to me, he gave me a shocked look. He looked at me weird, like I was an idiot. I suppose it's something that only really hit me in retrospect. I'd never had any cause or reason to check on the kids while I was there. David always assured me that they were asleep and quiet, and told me not to bother them because they were light sleepers. that he would check on them personally when he got home, and only to go in the rooms if they shouted for someone. But they never shouted. I never actually saw any of the kids in their beds. Not just that night, but any of the nights. I never saw them any of those nights. How could I have been so stupid? I tried to show them the text between me and David to make it clear to them. They took my phone away for evidence, but the man who broke in, they told me he deleted parts of the conversation. He left most of the things, but removed key details like addresses and such. So all they had to go off of was my foggy memory. I'm not sure if they could recover the messages somehow. Maybe they could. Maybe that's why they took my phone. They had the tooth that I threw back on the floor, but I'm not sure if they ever figured out who it belonged to. I got brought in for questioning a couple more times, but it was always the same exact questions. It never really went anywhere, if I'm honest. They never really seemed to have something new to ask me. I asked if they checked out the addresses that I gave, but they could not find anything. His other daughter's house out of state, it was completely empty. There was no car waiting outside either. They found the warehouse eventually, but that had nothing inside either. I think they told me his company was phony. I think they traced the payments that were sent to my account, but they did not lead anywhere other than a shell company. And that's all I have. Like I said, this was the best part of around 15 to 20 years ago now, so the details are not perfect, and I probably got some stuff wrong. I never found out anything else. I have no idea who David really was or what his company was really all about. I'm not sure why I was hired or what was really going on. I don't know how to deal with his kids either. Was the boy I met not his kid? Was he just a random kid he got off the street to lull me into a false sense of safety? I've had so long to think about these things that I can't help but keep coming up with more and more explanations that never lead me anywhere but in circles. I think it's probably for the best that I never know what was really happening. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night anymore. So, this happened to me in high school. I was visiting my uncle for the summer. My uncle's house is in the middle of a forest in the Allegheny Mountains. I am stuck inside during a really bad thunderstorm, and it's around dusk. I go outside to let the cat inside. I see this bright orange light in the woods. It looks like an orange floodlight. Pick related, it looks kinda similar to what I saw. Bear in mind there are no neighbors around me for miles. I ask my uncle if maybe people might be hunting in the woods. He says no, it's not hunting season. I point out the light in the woods. The light moves very slightly, like someone with a lantern walking around in the woods. My uncle thinks that someone is trespassing on his property. We wait until the rain lightens up, then go out to check on it. The light keeps moving. It keeps going farther into the woods as we walk towards it. We call out for a response, but of course, we get no response. There is no noise coming from this light at all. My uncle stops dead in his tracks. He says that we need to go home. I ask him why. He won't say. All he will say is, we need to go home. As we head out of the woods, the light disappears. We get inside the house. No one talks about the light. I keep staring out the window, looking for if the light comes back. The house stays eerily quiet and calm until it's time to go to sleep. I look outside and see that light again, wandering around the edge of the woods. I wake my uncle up. I tell him that the light is back. He tells me to just leave it alone and go to bed. I watch the light for about an hour from my bedroom window, but finally I go to bed. The next morning, we found the cat dead on the back porch with its head missing. It looked like it had been gnawed off, but the rest of the body was untouched. We buried the cat in the backyard by the garden. She was a good cat. That night, the light returns around dusk. I stand outside just watching it. I call out to it. It sits quietly for a minute. Then I hear a faint meow coming from the woods. I go inside and lock the door, and I watch it from the window. Throughout the night, we both hear a cat meowing and yowling in the woods. I can't sleep. I'm way too freaked out. I am just watching the light move around in the woods and listening to the noises. Morning comes by, and light disappears again. My uncle says he has never seen or heard anything like it. He has lived there for 10 years. We go outside and check the woods again. There is no sign of humans living in those woods. There is nothing abnormal there during the day at all. We are so damn confused. We are almost convinced that we hallucinated the whole thing. We go home to take a shower and eat some lunch. We walk past the garden. The cat's body has been dug up and is laying near the stairs to the back porch. I am genuinely upset now and really tired of this. We rebury the cat and put a heavy rock over the grave. I am tired and frustrated, and I yell into the woods. I tell whatever it is to fuck off and leave us alone. My uncle thinks I'm going insane. He tells me to calm down and go inside. I go inside and calm down by taking a shower. I wait to see the light again, but it never ever returns. I have gone back to my uncle's house every single summer since, and I have never seen that light again. My uncle says he never saw it again either when I haven't been there. He's convinced that a fox or a coyote killed the cat, then dug her back up the next night. When I ask about the light, he just says he doesn't know, and leaves it at that. Those woods still scare the piss out of me, nearly 7 years later. Strange noises that I heard near a swamp. Alright guys, this is the first thread I've made on X after a long time of looking. I have no idea where to ask this, or how I can even find out what I heard. All I know is that what I heard, it was not a normal animal. I was on quite a small island in North Carolina for vacation. It's called Bald Head Island. The island is quite small, so the only transportation used is golf carts on paved roads. Paramedics and police force use normal vehicles. My friend Alex, my brother Chase, and I were out driving during the night, just enjoying the nature and having a night ride. We take the smaller of the two carts. One is a 4-seater, the other is a 6-seater. We ride around, and nobody is outside since it's pretty late, maybe 11 o'clock. We see a street lamp up the road at an intersection. We are relatively far away. We see a car pull up. The street lamp light shut off, and the car shuts its headlights off. The car then throws it into reverse and pulls back onto a side road out of sight. We are a little freaked out, but we continue forward. Alex is in the rear-facing seat. He says the light of the street lamp returns as we pull down the street away from it, and the car pulled out after us. We are a long distance away from the car, but they quickly gain on us. I see flashing lights and I think it's a cop. We pull over, and an ambulance, a cop car, and a fire truck ride past us. There is no crime whatsoever on this island, by the way. That weirds us out, but the cart is dying, so we head home to get the other cart. We head out again with the other golf cart, and we see no animals whatsoever. Every single trip that we have taken here, we always see animals, at least hear them. It's an uneventful ride, so we head home. On the way home, we stop off at a little deck that looks over a swamp where an alligator is known to live. The golf cart headlights illuminate the shore opposite of us, as well as our high-powered flashlight that we brought along. I knock on the wood on the dock, thinking it will attract the alligator. The second that I knock on the wood, I hear a decently loud, rattle-sounding harsh screech. It freaks me the hell out. My brother and my friend, they aren't that weirded out. They didn't hear it as much. I shut off the music. My brother is scanning the shoreline. I hear the shuffling of a creature across the shore. We hear the noise, but extremely loud and very aggressive sounding. We bolt the hell out of there. I have no idea what could have made that noise. I looked up a list of animals on the island and listened to all of their noises, even alligator noises, which was the first suspect for me. Alligators sound nothing like what I heard. I plan on going back tomorrow to get photos of the area and hopefully a sound recording of whatever it is. Also, I mentioned the things about the police officers because police are very inactive on the island. It's like a mile or two long. The only residents that live here are old people. Police activity is very rare, and it was very out of place. I can't help but think that the two experiences were connected somehow. So, I was a security guard in a huge auditorium. I do my rounds like 3 times a shift. Everything there is cool, except this one area that I must check. It's the Scotch room. It's basically an area that is a long corridor, one way in and one way out. It's a VIP of the VIP's room. Only the richest of the rich people get in there. Every time that I went in, I feel chills. Felt like someone was watching me. In the back of the corridor is a staircase that leads down to a door that exited to the back alley. The door is not in use unless there was a fire. I just have to make sure that it has not been tampered with. One night I went down there and the lights went out and the door in the Scotch room shut. I immediately got scared, grabbed my flashlight and flashed it up the stairs. The stairs were full of women in white blouses staring at me in a line from top to bottom. They then vanished and the lights came on. It was basically a flash illusion, almost like a subliminal message in a movie. I see it for 1 second and then it went away. I felt nauseated, lightheaded, and weak. I fell to my knees and rolled to my ass on the floor and I closed my eyes. Next thing I know, I am being woken up on the floor by my 2-way radio. I checked the time and 25 minutes went by. After that, I never went in there again. I just said it was all secure.